Hi everybody, I am so excited to have the gorgeous and talented Kimberley Bell, who is from kimberleybellnutrition.co.nz. And Kimberley, thank you for joining me today to be able to share some of your wisdom and insight into the way that we look at food and diet, which we're going to talk about that today. So thank you for joining me from all the way from beautiful Auckland.
No worries, it's great to be here.
So tell me a bit more about how you got into nutrition. What was your aha moments or the reason that drove you into going, I need to do this differently?
So it was initially kind of in two parts, I guess. As with most 13, 14-year-old girls, I got well sucked into diet culture and got quite obsessed with food and wanted to know as much as possible about food. I also, got hit with the explosion of Instagram and became very body focused. So ironically, I initially got into nutrition and decided I wanted to study nutrition to make sure that I knew all the answers and so that I could control my body and control how I looked and, do all the right things. I've always been probably a bit of a perfectionist and everywhere in my life. So it's just another thing that I thought I could control. But unfortunately, that actually just leads to a lot of bit of a disordered relationship with food, a lot of restriction, a lot of food fears. I developed a lot of negative body image, and then I, just got myself into not a very happy place, and that I had to then get myself out of. And I guess once I managed to get myself out of that place, I realized that actually what I initially got into nutrition for has actually changed, and I didn't want to get into nutrition anymore to be able to, control bodies and get all the perfect answers. I actually wanted to help people develop a positive relationship with food and be able to look beyond just how they look and be able to be healthy from the inside. So that is what I do today. I help people to develop a more positive relationship with food in their body, to ditch the diets, to learn how to nourish themselves confidently, and still enjoy life. I love, I'm a foodie and I love a wine and cheese board as much as everyone, and diet culture can take away those little pleasurable moments from us if we're not careful.
Tell me about diet culture, because this is something that I find interesting from this. We're so bombarded by these versions of what is health and what is the healthiest version of you in regards to diet. And that kind of, there's the paleo, there's the fasting, there's so much out there in regards to keto. There's just and so people kind of go, well, which one do I do? We yo-yo, we restrict, we calories. How do we even look at this from a holistic way?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So the reality is there is very little that we know for sure with nutrition in terms of what we need. For example, we know roughly how many grams of protein we need per kg of body weight just to support our function. We have a rough idea of the micronutrients we need. So we've got this set of recommended daily intakes to hit our minimums. But things like our maximums, and when in terms of getting into the finer details of it, it's there is no perfect diet, and there is people who can thrive off such a huge range of diets, it just goes to show, I think, how amazing our bodies are. The fact that there are populations who can survive off a diet that is 80% carbohydrate, for example, and thrive. There are other populations that can survive off 80% protein and thrive, and same with fats. There are papers that say saturated fat is going to kill you, and then there are populations that have copious amounts of coconut oil and have thrived for generations. So you only have to look at different populations around the world, different eating cultures, to see how incredibly diverse our human bodies are. And this is why I don't believe in any one set diet.
Yeah, nice. Own it. I love it. No one set diet.
There is no one set diet. It's very much, it should be an N equals 1 experiment, and it's something that you can figure out for yourself. Having a base level of knowledge in terms of how to meet your minimum nutrient requirements can be a good start. But then from there, there's so many options, which is great.
Yeah. Exactly. And one of the things that we've talked about is this concept of actually tuning in and listening. And it's a big part of what I teach with the virtual retreats, we were in-person
Mm,
retreats, is this concept of listening into the body in so
mm,
many ways. But really when it comes down to our gut health and actually our gut brain, because that's a really powerful tool. It's an intrinsic nervous system that we just kind of
mm,
ignore. And it's actually trying to tell us a lot, whether it's the cues that we're hungry, that we are thirsty, that
yeah,
we're happy, we're
yeah,
satisfied, or our alarms going off and we're not listening.
yeah,
So our relationship with food with that is really powerful, because the more that we can actually take time to slow our body down, de-stress, learn to breathe, bring into a better nervous system state, then that's going to make it easier for our brain to go out of that kind of, I like how you called it before, the
yeah,
diet voice almost, that one's kind of
yeah,
like at
yeah,
you and
yeah,
completely impacting your psychology and your belief systems. And then that
yeah,
logical brain can come on and be
yeah,
like, no, let's take a moment,
yeah,
pause and listen and
yeah.
tune in.
God, you've said so many things there that could take me on a tangent. I'd like to
Typical.
mention what you said about listening to your body. And I'd just like to mention here that there are certain things in our environment that inhibit our ability to listen to our body effectively. You mentioned gut health. Our gut is very powerful and it can drive a lot of our cravings. A lot of people don't realize this, but when we're feeding ourselves, we're also feeding the population of bacteria in our gut. So, and this is where I feel like something just like intuitive eating can be challenging if you've got a dysbiosis, because if you've got an overgrowth of pathogenic bacteria, they will be literally telling you to feed them their favorite food, which is white flour and sugar. So you can often, that's like one example of a disruption. And then you mentioned in terms of like the psychology, I think, diet culture has become such a disruption in terms of us listening to our bodies. And the reason for that is, instead of us, when we're eating, thinking, how does this feel? How does this taste? How's this feeling in my body? Do I feel nourished after this meal? Like, how much do I actually need? Instead of us thinking about all these things, what actually goes through our head for a lot of people is, oh my God, I wonder how many calories are in here. Oh my God, I wonder what the impact of this is going to have on my body. Oh, like if I have this, like, what does it mean I have to do tomorrow? We just get hit with all this diet chat, and that actually takes away from us asking the real questions, which is, how did this feel? And I think that's something that's going to be so powerful with what you're doing, is helping people like reconnect with that, and hopefully it'll actually help a lot of people to shut off some of that diet chat, which isn't actually anything to do with how you feel.
I think that is having that support around you to do that, whether it's in a group format or working one-on-one with, which you do. Anybody who wants to get to know you, they can go to kimberleybellnutrition.co.nz and sort of start digging into that, because I think the thing for it is like you said, it's your own journey and experience. And that comes from what we've been brought up with. Like our culture in New Zealand is definitely, there's this three veg and meat, get the right way around kind of culture. And it's my upbringing definitely has been very strict on that kind of that. And I do realize when I was playing a lot of sport growing up, I got into my 20s and I was very nutrient deficient. And yeah, I'm one of six kids, so big family, love it. And mum and dad did a great job overall, but we didn't know much about that kind of nutrient stuff then, and that listening to my body about, and now how much I crave those right building blocks to get my nervous system back up, particularly when I've been through a few illnesses with pregnancies, and then with some massive stuff with grief and trauma and changes. My nervous system's really craved to have good building blocks, and if I don't do that, it'll tell me in the wrong way, and I'm always like, so annoying to me, but I have to listen. And one of the things that's really showed up for me is alcohol. Not that I ever drank much, because I'm the midget of a person and I couldn't, but our culture is so driven that when you go out and it's the social, it's like, what? You're not drinking. I'm like, I'm allergic to it. I literally say that I'm allergic now. If I have a drink, I'm like, that does not feel good for me. So I'm not saying everybody has to be like that, but I've just got the point where maybe people have one, but I just go, it doesn't serve my nervous system.
Yeah, really and that's great, and this is the thing. Like, I have some clients who can have, half bottle of wine a week, or a bottle of wine over the weekend, and they actually feel fine. And then others are like yourself, they have 2 glasses and they actually feel horrible. And everyone is so different, and the same goes with literally everything when it comes to food. Like, some people feel amazing they actually feel okay on gluten, crazily enough.
Yep.
And other people, it makes them feel horrible.
Yep.
So
yeah, so the chocolate's I feel amazing on.
Yeah.
So I will ditch that so I
Yeah.
can have the Whitakers. I should be sponsored
yeah.
by them, but the amount that I eat of them, just saying Whitakers come out to me. But it's my happy food. And I know there's serotonin, I know I crave magnesium and there's all these things behind it, but it's like I have to have that battle between myself being like, oh, you're having it again tonight. I'm like, you know what? I don't do much naughty stuff. This is my naughty. And my
that
good
is your that is your self-care, and
yes.
What we talked about before is like food can absolutely be one way that you apply self-care, as long as it tastes good, it feels good, that you're not ending up in nutrient deficiencies over the week, as long as you're not beating yourself up after a meal, because that's not self-care.
Exactly. Or mindfully eat it, when you have that small piece of chocolate, intuitive eating. I think that's it. Like it's all those pieces, like if you want to do the exercise of actually getting a piece of chocolate and closing your eyes and actually smelling it, putting it in the mouth, and then like even my mouth is like, I'm thinking about the chocolate, I'm salivating thinking about it, and oh my god, it's so good. And then just how that body will tune in because of that, because you've slowed down your user senses and mindfully done that. It's the small things, but they change your relationship with food and therefore the stress response and the psychology.
Totally, yeah.
So not a one-size-fits-all model. That's what we're saying here. And I think that's what I wanted to kind of have this conversation with you, Kim, so that we can start to have a ripple effect out about this. I know that can be hard to change a culture, change language and diet and all these things that people get stuck on. But actually, it's really about choosing the things that serve you, listening and eating,
is okay.
Balance in everything we do.
Balance. Like eating foods that your body recognizes is pretty key. Like what's interesting is when you look at all these different documentaries, you've got all these doctors and professors saying this, look at this diet. Like once people started doing this diet, they had all these amazing health benefits. What's really interesting is every diet that people have had some amazing health benefit on usually has one thing in common, and it usually is that people have adopted more of a whole foods diet.
Yeah. Whether
it's paleo or vegan or 100% meat or whatever, vegetarian, fruit diet, there's a lot of data that shows that when people go from a mainstream way of eating, which is more processed food, to whole food, that there are some great health benefits. Keto is another one, So I think we can kind of learn from that, I guess, in terms of trying to simplify nutrition. If there's one thing that we lead more towards, more whole food. But then again, as I was saying to you, like another big aspect of self-care nutrition is making sure it works with your lifestyle. So people need to find their own balance with what whole food looks like. Busy mums might not have time to make their own hummus, and that's okay, you don't, it's okay to like have a preservative in your canned tomatoes. So I have to be careful what I sometimes, when I talk about whole foods, that it doesn't become a diet, because, we all have to do what works for us, both in our body, but also in our lifestyle as well.
I think that is probably my biggest takeaway from our conversation, is that it's listening to what's going on in your world, and your world will change over time and it will need to be adapted. And so sometimes you can be more whole food based and do all that, but if you can't be perfect, because nobody's perfect,
exactly,
then you can allow it to kind of shift to the side and be like, this is what I need right now to survive, thrive and get through for myself, and to then be able to give to everybody else.
Yeah, totally. Because the menace, if by trying to do everything perfectly whole foods, it's just going to make your stress levels go through the roof, your breath, stuff going, out the door, that's actually probably causing more inflammation from a stress perspective than that little preservative would ever have done. And that's something that I'll often say to people, is just like, look, like do your best, but like, based on your current scenario,
Absolutely. Thank you, Kim. So if anybody wants to connect with you, there's a few ways they can do that. So the website is kimberleybellnutrition.co.nz. Have I got that right?
Yeah. kimberleybellnutrition.co.nz. That's the one.
And what about if they want to get to you on Instagram and social media, or email you?
Yeah. So Instagram is Kimberley Bell Nutrition. Ley. So you'll spell my name wrong. So Kimberley Bell Nutrition, to follow me on Instagram. You can find the website through that as well. And I try and post a lot of non-diet supportive stuff on there, as well as some yummy whole food recipes, not too whole food, still got tinned tomatoes and stuff.
So the balanced, beautiful,
The
people would need
balanced
to see.
version. Oh yeah. I'm definitely not perfect, and I don't expect anyone else to be.
And you work with other people as well, don't you? So that people want to kind of get that support system, and they kind of go, I need a coach, because in so many areas of our lives we need coaches, whether it's breath coaches or physical coaches, but nutrition coaches, not diet, nutrition and balance is important.
Totally. Yeah. So I specifically help people who are struggling with their weight, health and body image, to ditch the diets and, like I say, learn to nourish themselves in a way that feels like self-care, not self-restriction, in a way that still enables them to enjoy their life as well.
Thank you, Kim. I love chatting with you. I can see there's going to be lots more collaboration and sharing of your wisdom. Okay. And thank you for doing what you're doing and helping people out. So it's amazing.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me. This has been so fun.